You ever wake up thinking today's just another plain old Texas morning, coffee, brewing sun crawling up over your land, and then realize the world's gone absolutely sideways before you've even finished your first cup? That was me not so long ago, rolling up to my ranch like I'd done 1,000 times before. Only this time staring down the barrel of a gleaming white metal gate where my family's road had always been. No warning, no phone call, just two fresh signs bolted into concrete: private community toll access, $25 per entry, and even louder: trespassers will be reported. So there I was, 5 miles out from home, stuck on gravel, trying to wrap my head around this circus. Out steps a guy in a neon vest, clipboard in hand, doing his best impression of a big city security guard. I lean out the window, eyebrows already halfway up my forehead, and give him a flat morning. He answers like we're at some fancy country club. "Morning, sir. I'm going to need you to pay the community toll before I can let you through." You ever have one of those moments where you honestly wonder if you're the punchline in someone else's joke? You what I ask. HOA says, non-residents gotta pay. We're a private community now. Buddy, this road's been mine since Grover Cleveland had a desk in the White House, I tell him, voice as calm as I can keep it. I point right past him to the gate post. My gate post, and let him know he's the one standing on the wrong side of the law. Not me. He just shrugs, says he's following instructions. Threatens to call the sheriff if I force my way. Name's Brian, by the way, never met a Brian with less backbone. So I give him a choice. I'm turning around now, but I'll be back in 5 minutes. Gate better be gone, or at least Brian better be. I back my truck down the gravel dust in my rear view, take a breath, then do what my daddy taught me years ago when somebody tried to fence him out of his own orchard. I reach for my old Mossberg behind the seat. Legal as Sunday, loaded and itching for justice. Brian's still there when I roll up, but this time he's got his phone out and his eyes are wide. I tell him, last chance, move off my land. He freezes, stammers, I have to report. I rack the slide. That's all it takes. Clipboard hits the dirt. Brian sprints off and I step out, point, and blow that cheap lock off the gate in one shot. Metal crunches, sparks fly, the gate swings open like it's finally come to its senses, and I drive through. No cheers, no music, just the sound of Texas land breathing free again. And you know what? I don't even feel mad by the time I'm hammering my own private land. Access by court order only sign into the ground, right next to my great-granddad's old stone marker. I just feel tired of playing by other folks' imaginary rules. By the time I'm home, dogs fed, coffee poured, gearbox cracked open on the workbench, I almost believe the storm's passed. But if you know Texas, you know storms don't just blow over. A couple hours later, a tan pickup rolls up, slow, drops an envelope in my mailbox, and disappears. Inside, a court summons. HOA claims I threatened a security guard, destroyed community infrastructure, trespassed on their road. They want damages and injunction restraining orders. I let out a laugh. Not the funny kind. Aggression on my own road. So I call Gina Alvarez, the kind of lawyer who keeps her boots by the door and a loaded briefcase under her desk. She tells me to send every scrap deed, old maps, the servitude grant from 1937. Says that's not just wrong, it's reckless. Then I call Tom Randall, best damn surveyor in 4 counties. I call Jack at the sheriff's office too, just to see if he signed off on any of this. He laughs so hard he nearly drops the phone. No permits, no court order. That's illegal as hell, Clint. By noon, Tom's got maps and a GPS rig spread across my kitchen like we're planning the Normandy invasion. We lay out the county records against the HOA's glossy development brochure. On the HOA's version, they've quietly shifted the boundary line by about 70 feet, subtle if you don't know what you're looking for, but I'm not exactly new to this rodeo. Tom starts his GPS survey, says he'll get me a notarized report. Meanwhile, Jack digs up a revised boundary map from the HOA signed by a surveyor who turns out retired 2 years before the ink even dried. And then out of nowhere, I get a call from a block number. "You don't know me," the voice says, "but I installed that gate. Check your mailbox tomorrow." Sure enough, next morning there's a flash drive and a note for your lawyer, backed up elsewhere. I watch the file grainy dash cam footage of the HOA president, Karen Hale, telling a contractor to just put up the gate and ignore the deed. If he makes a scene, let security handle it. If he gets aggressive, that works in our favor. The court won't like a guy with a gun rack and a temper. The contractor hesitates, but Karen doesn't blink. Just do it. I send that to Gina. Her reply, "This is huge, premeditated abusive process. We're going to tear them apart." Tom's survey confirms the fraud boundary line shifted jurisdiction, faked, all signed off by a junior surveyor now sitting on the developer's board. We prep affidavits, trail cam goes up, and sure enough, HOA sends a standards officer to trespass and snap photos. I catch her point to the boundary pin and invite her to wait for the sheriff. She bolts. 3 days later, I'm sitting with Gina and a pile of exhibits, dash cam video survey old deeds. She says we're going after the HOA, the board Karen Hale herself. This is attempted regulatory theft with a side of perjury. We file motions for injunction, counterclaims for fraud, conspiracy, you name it. Then one night, my trail cam catches 2 figures trying to cut the gate hinges at 2 a.m. Black SUV bolt cutters, but they spook and run. Jack tells me complaints are rolling in from other landowners. This isn't just about me. Turns out a neighbor up the road, Earl Moore, has been getting flooded ever since the HOA rerouted drainage from their roads onto his pasture. His wife gets sick from the mold. The HOA ignores every letter. Earl shows me a stack of proof permits, a private engineering report, diversion intentional. Gina adds him to our case. Suddenly, we're not just defending a gate, we're exposing a land grab operation. We discover the HOA amended the parcel map 6 months ago, snatching nearly 30 extra acres, including my road. Moore's easement even part of the old fire trail, signed by the usual suspects, Karen, her lawyer, and the surveyor turned board member. I call Reese at the Texas General Land Office, email him the maps. He digs up a letter from '98, my road explicitly excluded from any future incorporation, because it's the only legal access to the aquifer under my ridge. That's the real prize control, the road control, the water rights control, every rancher downstream. Suddenly, the gate makes a whole lot more sense. Gina updates our claim. Now we've got environmental violations, resource manipulation, fraud. Jack confirms the guard at the gate wasn't licensed, just Karen's nephew in a vest. HOA tries to settle. Drop the lawsuit, take down the gate. Call it a misunderstanding. I tell them, she can keep her gate. I'll hang it in my barn. The developer, Westridge Properties, sues the HOA next their own board for fraud, tanking a $12 million sale. When court day comes, I show up in my best boots, Gina with binders stacked high, the whole county watching. Judge Jenkins doesn't waste time. Karen's lawyers stammer about community safety and clerical errors. Gina slices through it, original deeds, the dash cam audio. Karen's voice clear as day, if he makes a scene that works in our favor. Jenkins orders the gate removed in 72 hours, refers the case for criminal review. Karen looks like she just bit into a lemon, her lawyer sweating bullets. But she doesn't quit. Next day, she files a personal lawsuit against me for emotional distress and defamation through unauthorized surveillance. Gina just laughs, turns out. Karen owns the developer behind the HOA through a shell company. She's been running a land scheme, not a neighborhood. The internet gets hold of the story, local news, Facebook letters from folks across the country, all sharing their own HOA horror stories. One vet from Alabama writes, "Watching you fight gives me hope. Not all of us roll over. Makes you realize this fight's bigger than just one ranch." Final hearing packed to courtroom, new judge. Gina lays out everything: fake maps, shell companies, forged signatures, unlicensed security, that smug quote from Karen herself. Sheriff testifies, no official checkpoint, no authority, just a paper trail of lies. I tell my piece, simple and true. I wasn't the aggressor, just a man defending his home. Then Gina drops the last bomb, an HOA newsletter, Karen bragging about reclaiming the South Road from an old-timer. The judge doesn't blink, substantial evidence of fraud, conspiracy, criminal obstruction. Karen and her partner handcuffed, remanded for trial, faces white as printer paper. That day they tore down the gate. A court-appointed receiver dissolved the HOA, paid out damages, and Karen got 12 years. I bolted up a fresh sign, private road. Trespassers will be fed to the cows. So far nobody's tested it, but I'm ready if they do. Now maybe you think this only happens in movies or that justice always wins in the end. Truth is, sometimes you gotta fight tooth and nail for what's right, and even then you only win if you stand your ground. So let me ask you, how far would you go to defend your own land, your family's legacy? Drop your answer below and tell me, is justice what's written on the page or what a person's willing to fight for? And hey, if you've tangled with an HOA, share your story. I guarantee you're not alone.